Just felt a little something in her groin, so we'll get it evaluated. And
Caitlin Clark has skyrocketed to rock star status, setting the WNBA on fire with her fierce defensive teammate Lexie Hull, and proving she's more than just a player, she's a movement. Her fearless stand lit up social media, drew national headlines, and thrust her into a multi-million-dollar spotlight built on loyalty, passion, and unstoppable drive. Yet behind her rise lies a harsh truth. The Indiana Fever are fighting through chaos every time they step on the court. What should feel like basketball often feels like survival. With bodies bruised, stars sidelined, and injuries piling up, the team has been stripped down to its core. Caitlin herself missed weeks with a groin injury, while Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Ari McDonald, and Chloe Bibby all went down one after another. 5 key players gone, no safety net in sight, and a league seemingly unwilling to protect its future. Through it all, Caitlin Clark stands defiant, rewriting the rules, redefining resilience, and reminding the world why true greatness rises when everything else falls apart. The weight on the remaining Indiana Fever players became unbearable. Odyssey Sims, signed on a hardship contract, was essentially the backup to the backup to the backup for Caitlin Clark, and even she was far from healthy. Battling her own injuries, Sims had no business being on the floor, yet with the roster stripped bare, she was forced to drag herself into the game. That alone shows just how desperate things had become. This relentless wave of injuries isn't just bad luck anymore. It feels almost cursed. Every new day brings another report of a Fever player sidelined, tearing apart the very core of the team. Guards, wings, shooters, gone in the blink of an eye. The burden fell squarely on Lexie Hull and Kelsey Mitchell, who were forced to carry the team on their backs. Against Minnesota, Hull logged a defense. A grueling 37 minutes, scoring 23 points out of pure survival, while Mitchell poured in 26, fighting through double teams and relentless, but grueling defense. Defense. When exhausted players are pushed to play nearly the entire game, every possession feels like a mountain to climb. The patchwork fixes weren't much better off. The defense. The thence. The team was signing players just hours before tip-off. Shop Petty barely had time to unpack before being thrown into the rotation. Odyssey Sims, still limping, was expected to run the offense. Aerial Powers, added late, was immediately thrust into heavy minutes with no chemistry or rhythm. It wasn't basketball anymore, it was chaos in motion. A patchwork group of players was forced to find chemistry in real time, while their opponents exploited every mistake. Even head coach Stephanie White admitted the obvious. The physicality her depleted team faced was far beyond what they could endure. Every drive to the rim drained their energy. Every defensive stop felt like a battle. The Fever fought with pride, but with such thin depth, even the fundamentals became exhausting. Still, somehow, they refused to quit. That's the thing about this Indiana squad offense. No matter how bad the odds, they kept pushing. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. As brutal as the injuries were, they weren't the most damaging part of the night. What broke the Fever more than losing half their roster was something that should never have been an issue: the officiating. The referees, the very people meant to uphold fairness and protect the players, seemed oblivious to the punishment Indiana endured. Hits to the face, body checks, contact that left players staggering, all ignored. Time after time, the whistle stayed silent. It felt like the Fever weren't just battling their opponents, they were battling the officials, too. After yet another uncalled collision, the crowd sat stunned, disbelief filling the arena. The frustration on the players' faces said it all. This wasn't just basketball anymore. It was survival wrapped in injustice. The Fever weren't just outmanned, they were undermined. And as the game began slipping away, one question grew louder and more unsettling. Were the referees simply missing calls, or was something deeper at play? Could it be that the officials, the supposed enforcers of fairness, were actually working against Indiana? It sounds unthinkable, yet what unfolded on the court made fans question everything they thought they knew about the game. When referees stop being neutral and start shaping outcomes, it's no longer competition, it's control. That's exactly what the Fever faced in a matchup that left both players and fans stunned. Lexie Hull, already carrying an immense burden with so many teammates injured, locked in defensively against Kayla McBride. It looked like a routine battle for position until McBride swung her arm with force, her elbow connecting squarely with Hull's face. Hull crumpled to the floor, clutching her jaw, and for a moment, everyone assumed the call was obvious. It was the kind of contact that screamed flagrant. No flagrant. No flagrant. But then came the twist no one saw coming. The officials didn't penalize flagrant. Penalize flagrant. Penalize McBride for the elbow. Instead, they called a foul on Hull, the very player who had taken a hit. The crowd gasped, commentators replayed the moment in disbelief, and the Fever bench sat frozen, staring in stunned silence. It wasn't just a bad call. It was a moment that made the whole game feel rigged. Replay after replay showed the elbow landing cleanly and brutally, yet the officials stood by their call, treating Lexie Hull as if she were the one at fault. Fans expected the review to fix the mistake, but instead, it only made things worse. The slow-motion footage left no room for debate. Kayla McBride's arm clearly swung through and connected directly with Hull's face, a textbook example of dangerous contact. Still, the referees refused to issue a proper penalty. They made a minor adjustment, admitting something happened, but stopped short of holding McBride accountable. To many watching, it felt like the system itself was protecting one team while punishing the other. The inconsistency was staggering. Hull was left clutching her face, Indiana lost momentum, and Minnesota seized control, all because of a whistle that seemed more concerned with optics than fairness. How do you justify punishing the victim instead of the aggressor? Commentators couldn't believe what they were seeing. Boom. Right there in the face, one analyst exclaimed, echoing what millions saw in real time. Social media erupted in outrage as Fever fans pointed to a growing pattern penalize. Every very time Indiana players take hard hits, whether it's shoves, body checks, or elbows, the calls rarely go their way. Meanwhile, their opponents play with impunity, using physicality as a weapon while the officials look the other way. And here's the deeper issue. This isn't happening to a fully healthy team. The Indiana Fever are already battered, losing player after player to injuries, and every uncalled foul or ignored hit only makes things worse. When half your roster is sidelined, the last thing you can afford is referees adding to the damage by letting opponents get away with reckless contact. Minnesota's physical style wasn't the real problem. Many teams play tough. The issue was the inconsistency, the blatant unevenness in how the game was called. Fever drives into the paint were met with silence, while minor bumps on the other end drew instant whistles. Even head coach Stephanie White, choosing her words carefully, made it clear after the game. Her team wasn't being officiated on the same scale as their opponents. To both players and fans, the message was unmistakable. Indiana wasn't just battling the lie, links, they were battling the officiating too. And in that crucial moment when Lexie Hull hit the floor, the refs didn't just miss a call. They sent a message. This wasn't an isolated mistake. It felt like part of a larger pattern, one that made Fever fans question whether their team was being deliberately treated differently. So the question now is, how did the Indiana Fever respond in the middle of that storm? Keep watching, because the Indiana Fever's response might just make you question whether the real battle is happening on the court or beyond the scoreboard. To the Fever, the message couldn't have been clearer. This wasn't bad luck anymore. It felt like proof that the system itself was tilted against them. The referees' whistles weren't just errors, they were obstacles Indiana had to fight through every single night. And yet, despite being shorthanded, bruised, and running on fumes, the Fever Feverlies refused to break. Instead of folding, they fought back, powered by grit, unlikely heroes, and pure determination to keep the game alive when everything else seemed lost. The hit on Lexie Hull wasn't just rough play, it looked intentional. Her legs buckled awkwardly as she went down, leaving the crowd in stunned silence. One commentator summed it up perfectly: that was bad intentions, man. When players believe their opponents can throw elbows and body checks without consequence, the blame shifts squarely onto the officials. Their job is to protect players, not normofover fever normalize and normalize islands. But on this night, that protection was nowhere to be found. You'd expect a team missing half its stars to collapse under that kind of pressure. Instead, Indiana rose. Kelsey Mitchell once again became the heartbeat of the team, carrying the offensio normalize and normalis offensive spiral with relentless drives and fearless shooting. She dropped 26 points, answering every Minnesota surge with a jumper, a three, or a hard attack to the rim. Time after time, when it looked like the Fever were about to break, Mitchell dragged them back from the edge, proving that heart can't be officiated. Without Kelsey Mitchell's offensive firepower, the game could have offensive spiral at offensive spiraled out of control fast, but spiraled doesn't. She wasn't about to let that happen. Then came the unexpected spark, Shaw Petty. A hardship signing who had barely unpacked her bags before being thrown into heavy minutes, Petty rose to the challenge in stunning fashion. Instead of playing a quiet supporting role, she erupted for 16 points off the bench, performing like she'd been part of Indiana's rotation all season. Her composure, confidence, and energy kept the Fever alive when fatigue threatened to break them. For someone brought in as an emergency stopgap, she looked every bit like someone born to wear the jersey. On the defensive end, Aaliyah Boston once again proved why she's the heartbeat of this team. Constantly doubled, bumped, and bruised on nearly every possession, she refused to back down. Her rebounding and rim protection gave Indiana a fighting chance, while her poise under relentless pressure showed leadership far beyond her years. Even without eye-popping scoring stats, Boston's presence grounded the Fever, giving them second chances and defensive grit they desperately needed. And then there was Lexie Hull, who had already reminded everyone of her value with a 23-point performance in 37 exhausting minutes the game before, stepping into the chaos and embracing a bigger role without hesitation. Add to that aerial powers, another late addition thrust into meaningful minutes after Sophie Cunningham's injury, and the Fever's fight became a story not of stars, but of survivors, players refusing to let circumstances define their game. Caitlin Clark has skyrocketed to rock star status, setting the WNBA on fire with her fierce defense of teammate Lexie Hull, and proving she's more than just a player, she's a movement. Her fearless stand lit up social media, drew national headlines, and thrust her into a multi-million-dollar spotlight built on loyalty, passion, and unstoppable drive. Yet behind her rise lies a harsh truth: the Indiana Fever are fighting through chaos every time they step on the court.